Coach, your team went 1-1 during the previous week of play with a win, with a 61-49 victory over Evangel on last Thursday in Puckett Fieldhouse, and an overtime loss at Peru State on Saturday. First, recapping the game against Evangel. Evangel had given your team its first loss of the season at their place. Sierra McSpadden had gone off for 24 points, her second highest total of the season, and she was great three-point shooting. Come last Thursday, a completely different story. Your team pretty much dominated from start to finish. What was the mindset of your team heading into last Thursday?
Well, we knew we needed to defend better. We really focused on getting back to some of the things we were doing early as far as fundamentally, defensively, denying the basketball, pressuring the basketball, making sure we were paying attention to the scouting report a little more in depth. And Evangel's having a little bit of a rough year, but they're still very explosive in certain ways. And at their place, they definitely had the tempo in their favor and did the things that they wanted to do in the half court. And we held a pretty good offensive team to 51 points, I think, or something. What was the final net score? 49. So, that was a great defensive effort. We did have a little bit of a mental lapse in the second half, but all teams in the league are going to make a run. They made a run, and I was pretty happy with our resiliency to continue to pull that thing out, get that win. It was a nice win.
When your team played in Springfield the first time around, the Evangel hit something like around 8 to 10 threes. Whereas your team struggled. On last Thursday, they were only 4 of 17 from three-point range and shot less than 30% from the field, actually closer to 29%. Defense has been your calling card all season long. Did you see something different in last Thursday that was different from the first time around?
Yeah, I mean, we certainly got out and pressured a bit more, and denied a bit more, and controlled the tempo, which makes a huge difference. And then, quite honestly, you're going to shoot better at home, and we shot better, and Evangel didn't. And life on the road is really tough. We're finding that out ourselves. You referred to the Peru State overtime loss last Saturday. It was a double overtime loss. They don't give games out on the road in this league, and it's become really challenging. And when we went there, and that was our first loss of the year, and we went there and got that loss. It was kind of a wake-up call to some of our ladies, and we still are struggling a little bit to find our own rhythm on the road. We're guarding, we're just not necessarily getting some things done offensively. But in the Evangel game, we certainly focused a little bit more on the scouting report. The kids did a great job of understanding the personnel and who we were defending, and it worked out really well for us. It was a nice win.
Looking at last Saturday's game, I know a heartbreak. You team erased a 6-point deficit late, and then only to have it go awry in overtime as Peru State scored the first 10 points, which really kind of gave them the game. Your general impressions from that game?
Well, we were awful. I mean, really, we were bad. We just weren't very good. We didn't have any energy. We were lethargic, complacent. We just didn't work very hard. And I think one of the things that we're struggling with is that we started the year so strong, and we've been nationally ranked, and I think sometimes you got to get smacked in the face and be told, look, other teams want to win too. And Peru State wanted to win more than we did. We were fortunate to even be in overtime. We didn't take care of the ball, we didn't value the ball. Our post players did a pretty decent job. Last night we watched film, we watched the game in its entirety. We made them chart the missed post feeds. Coach Bergen, how many missed post feeds was that last night? Do you remember? 29 missed post feeds, and then we wonder why we weren't successful. So, the film was a valuable learning tool for us. We had a chance to win a game ugly, and didn't do that, and I'm not so sure that might be better for us to not have won that game ugly, so that we can get back and understand that, you've got to have some commitment and passion to win games on the road, and you got to credit Peru State because they really made us uncomfortable. They turned us over, and they worked really hard, and they're playing well lately too, but we just weren't very good. And you can credit Peru State for some of that, and we also have to, as a coach, we have to figure out what we need to do different for those road trips to figure out how we can be better as well.
There were a few positives and negatives from that game. Just first, the negatives, as you alluded to, the difference seemed to be turnovers. Not valuing the ball. Your team had 34 turnovers in the game, a season high, whereas Peru State had only 20, still somewhat of a high number, but not as high as what you had. What did you tell your team after the game in terms of hopefully to value the ball more and to get that turnover number down?
Well, yelling and screaming doesn't do any good when you have a loss like that. I basically told them that I was pretty embarrassed by our effort and pretty embarrassed by our energy. Not because we lost the game. Losses happen. That's how you grow. But again, just coming back to the fact that, you know, every season has ups and downs and lulls, and, you know, all our goals are still very much intact. We feel pretty good about where we're at, but certainly I like the fact that we defended. I mean, we held one of the leading scoring teams on their court to 55 points in regulation. We go to Baker, who's the leading scoring team, last Saturday and hold them to 61 on their court in regulation. The fact that we're not able to score enough says that we're just not quite on the same page right now. We're in a little bit of a funk, and it happens. And we've got to figure out a way this week. It's nice to have a full week to practice because we're going to have our hands full. Mid-American Nazarene's probably going to be a top 6 or 7 team when they come here on Saturday. And we, by beating them the first time, we just basically, you know, made them mad. So it's going to be a challenge on Saturday. And there were some positives to take away. I thought Brittany Joseph was a machine on the board that she's been all year long. I thought our post players did a really nice job of posting up, but our guard play was inferior for sure.
Before looking ahead to the Mid-American Nazarene game, as you just alluded to, your post play was really the bright spot, and that was the positive I was going to highlight in that game. Your team dominated the boards, considering Peru State's one of the top rebounding teams in the not just the league, but the entire nation with Fort Ward. Brittany Joseph and Jasmine Poteet really had their way in the post. Did you expect that dominant of a performance heading into the game?
I thought it was an area that we could be successful. I mean, we're leading the league in offensive rebounding right now. We're leading the league in defense right now. And the fact that we're in 3rd or 4th place is just the fact that we're not taking very good care of the basketball. We're not finishing around the rim enough. We have a lot of offensive rebounds because we don't shoot a very high percentage. Now, the good news is we get a lot of offensive rebounds, so we get extra opportunities. But we've got to focus on finishing around the rim, finishing in the paint. We've got to continue to defend, which I've been very pleased with us defensively. I'd like to take a lot of credit as a coaching staff for what we're doing defensively, but our kids have a lot of grit defensively. Some of our best players are really good defenders. But like I said last time, we talked a couple weeks ago, something that's getting us in trouble is we have lineups that are really good offensively, and then we have some lineups that are really good defensively, and they're not very good at one another. We've got to continue to get one group to improve their deficiencies, and there's a lot of time to do that. There's a ton of the season left. You know, last year I thought we limped into the playoffs a little bit. We had a great year last year of rebuilding the program and doing some good things, but we limped into the playoffs and weren't playing quite well. I feel like that's how we're playing now, so if we hit that early, maybe it's a chance to really get a springboard back. I like our group still. I mean, we're 18-4. It's not panic time, but it's concern time on the fact that people are picking out some of our weaknesses and making us pay for them. So we need to continue to defend, continue to hit the offensive rebounds, and just figure out a little bit of funk we're in offensively.
The Pioneers won our Saturday's game. Some were ranked in the top 10, maybe as high as number 5. You gave them their only conference loss back in December, and you handled them pretty well at their place. How do you think they've improved as a squad from that game until this Saturday?
Well, I thought we kind of got them at the right time. They were undefeated at the time, and kind of like our loss to Evangel, they hadn't really been kicked in the teeth yet, and we kind of did that to them. And the positive to that is, Mid-Am's really good. Their roster, without a doubt, I said at the beginning of the year, I think we have the 2nd best roster in the league. I really do. And that's a credit to our coaching staff, the assistants for recruiting, just a great bunch, and some of the ladies that we inherited from the previous staff. We've got a really good roster. Mid-Am's roster is ridiculous. And they're pretty good. They shoot the ball well, they share the ball well, they like each other, and they do a lot of really good things. The good news is that we went back and looked, and we handled that game by a 10, 12, 14-point margin most of the game, and we weren't very good in that game. So, you know, Tawana Sutton went scoreless, and Nakia didn't even hardly play because she had a concussion, and Brooke Paulsell wasn't available, and Gather Cole didn't shoot the ball well. So we defended, and that was big, and so there's a lot of things we can do better offensively than what we did the first time, and then, of course, we need to continue to defend. That's something that we have been able to do, and we need to continue to do it on Saturday. Much like Coach Sherman said, John, the women's coach, played for Rocky on the men's side. They run the same fast break system, so you've got to get back. And their transition offense is special, and that's why both the teams shoot so well from the floors, because they get a lot of layups and a lot of transition looks.
The Pioneers enter as the 8th highest scoring team per game in the NAI, but like you just said, you held them to around 55 points, if I believe correctly. What did you do in that game, and will you deploy some of the same tactics that you used from the victory at Mid-Am in Saturday's contest?
Yeah, there's a lot of things we want to do. They don't like athleticism a lot. That's one weakness they do have in their roster. They've got a lot of really good personnel, but they don't love athleticism. And so we need to push it right back at them at times. Defensively, we need to make sure we know who we're guarding and what they do. The ladies did an outstanding job the first time of understanding this kid goes left, this kid goes right, this kid likes to spin move. We don't want to be tight on this kid, we want to be tight on that kid. You know, it's going to be really tough for us to sweep them this year. I'm looking forward to being at home. I'm looking forward to getting back on the court. But they're a top 6-7 team for a reason. And I think we match up well with them. And like I said, I'm excited about playing them at home. But we're going to need to make a few adjustments and just play harder than them. And make sure we challenge. And they shoot the ball really well from the perimeter. And we held them from doing that the first time. So we need to do that this time as well.
As good as the Pioneers have been, especially in the last 2 seasons, you actually have your team has a 2-game winning streak over them after beating them twice at their place in the last 12 months. What do you think has to come about from the home crowd, from the people in the stands, just from your bench? What auxiliary factors have to come into play if you want to stretch that streak to 3 straight wins?
Well, there's a couple of interesting factors too before we get to that. I mean, I think we're 9-0 at home, and I think they're 9 or 10-0 on the road. So it's going to be interesting. Something's got to give. You know, we need good energy, which we've had from the crowd. We need good energy from in. We got to create some of our own intensity. I think they'll be ready for it. I think, you know, one of our goals this year, which is still very much intact, is we don't want to lose 2 games in a row. We want to avoid any losing streaks whatsoever, and that's going to be at risk. We haven't done that up until this point. That's going to be a big if there, and we're going to have to make sure we come out and we execute and we take better care of the basketball than we have been. And I can think of no better time to kind of break out of making the extra pass funk or break out of the offensive funk we're in than this game on Saturday.
Finally, I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up the fact that even though you're in the middle of your season, you landed a big recruit recently from North Mercer High School. It's the 2nd-ranked team in the state. They've been, I believe, 94-5 in the last 4 years. Talk a little bit about that recruit and what you hope she will bring to Fayette.
Well, Courtney Owens is a kid I've been watching since I used to coach at the junior college in Trenton. I've been seeing her growing up as a 7th, 8th, and 9th grade. The kid's really good. She's a 5'11", 6-foot guard that can play all 3 guard positions. She can defend 4 positions. She's the daughter of a coach, so she knows what it's like to get stomped at and all that good stuff that I like to do. So she's very much prepared for the next level. She plays very high level AAU at Anarchy, Iowa, and her backcourt mate signed at Mizzou. So this is a really good basketball player off a really good high school basketball team that's done nothing but win a bunch of games over her high school career. And her length and athleticism should translate really well. And most importantly, she's extremely gifted off the court in the classroom, and academically she's extremely strong and comes from a really good family. And so when you sign your first kid, you want to set the tone for your recruiting class, and I don't think you can set it much better than we did with Courtney Owens.